The morning mist on Arbos 9 carried a peculiar quality that Captain Maya Rodriguez had never encountered on any other world. It wasn't merely the way it glowed with soft bioluminescence, casting everything in shades of turquoise and amber. Rather, it was how the mist seemed almost sentient, parting before her as she walked through the observation deck of the Galactic Survival Academy's orbital station. Below, the planet's vast fungal forests stretched to every horizon, their towering caps pulsing with rhythmic light like a planetary heartbeat. Maya pressed her palm against the viewport, feeling the subtle vibration of the station's life support systems. In 3 hours, she would lead her most challenging class yet, a mixed group of alien cadets, each from worlds so different that finding common ground seemed impossible. The Academy had recruited her precisely because she was human, a species that had survived ice ages, predators, and their own worst impulses through sheer adaptability rather than evolutionary specialization. "Captain Rodriguez?" A melodious voice interrupted her thoughts. Maya turned to see Administrator Corthax, whose crystalline form refracted the morning light into rainbow patterns. "Your students have assembled in Briefing Room 7. Maya nodded, straightening her instructor's uniform. Unlike the high-tech gear favored by most Academy staff, she wore simple, durable fabric, a choice that had raised eyebrows when she first arrived. "Thank you, Administrator. I'll be right there." The walk to the briefing room gave Maya time to review her students' files mentally. 4 distinct species, each with their own evolutionary advantages and cultural baggage. The Academy's philosophy was simple: throw different species together in survival scenarios and hope they learned from each other. Most instructors relied on technology to bridge the gaps. Maya had other ideas. Briefing Room 7 hummed with nervous energy when she entered. The space was designed to accommodate various alien physiologies, with adjustable gravity fields, atmospheric pockets, and surfaces that could shift from solid to liquid as needed. Her students had naturally segregated themselves into species groups, a habit she would need to break quickly. "Good morning," Maya said, her voice carrying the quiet authority she'd developed over years of leading expeditions through Earth's harshest environments. "I'm Captain Rodriguez, and for the next 72 hours, I'll be your guide into what might be the most important lesson of your Academy training." Vril's systems floated near the back, their 4 translucent arms wrapped protectively around their bulbous head. Maya had read about their species, telepathic empaths from a world of eternal twilight, where emotions were shared as freely as words. Even from across the room, she could sense their anxiety rippling outward in psychic waves. The Raxian twins, Tico and Tira, occupied the front row with the aggressive confidence typical of their kind. Their razor-sharp claws clicked against the metallic seats, creating a rhythm that seemed designed to intimidate. Desert predators from a world where water was more precious than diamonds. They viewed anything green with suspicion. Solari had positioned themselves, Maya wasn't sure of the appropriate pronoun, near the room's small water feature. The cephalopod's body shifted between states, sometimes solid, sometimes nearly liquid, their chromatophores creating mesmerizing patterns across their skin. According to their file, Solari's species had only recently achieved spaceflight, driven by curiosity rather than conquest. "Let me start with a question," Maya continued, moving to the center of the room. "How many of you have built something with your own hands? I mean, truly built, without computers, without nanobots, without any technology more advanced than basic tools?" Silence greeted her question. Tico's claw rose halfway, then lowered. "On Rax, we shape stone with our claws for coming-of-age ceremonies. Does that count?" "It's a start," Maya smiled. "Anyone else?" More silence. She hadn't expected otherwise. Most spacefaring civilizations had long ago outsourced physical labor to machines. It was one of humanity's quirks that they still found satisfaction in manual work. "Your mission begins in 2 hours," Maya announced. activating the holographic display. A three-dimensional map of Arbos 9's surface materialized, showing a section of forest marked with pulsing boundaries. You'll have 72 hours to build a shelter that can protect you through a full night cycle on Arbos 9. The catch? You can only use what you find in the forest and this. She produced a simple toolkit, a metal blade, rope, a fire starter, and a few other basic implements. The collective disbelief from her students was palpable. "That's impossible," Tira snarled, her voice like grinding stone. "The briefing says Arbos 9's nocturnal predators can chew through military-grade armor. How is rope supposed to stop them?" "It's not about stopping them," Maya replied calmly. "It's about understanding them. Every environment has rules. Learn the rules, and you can survive with surprisingly little." Vril's mental voice touched her mind, soft as silk. "But Captain, the psychic emanations from the forest, they say it's overwhelming. How do we focus on building when the very trees are screaming?" Maya had felt Vril's touch coming, one advantage of growing up on Earth, where human psionics were emerging but still rare. She'd learned to shield her thoughts early. "That's exactly why I chose Arbos 9, Vril. You can't shut out the forest's voice, so you'll need to learn to work with it. All of you will need to adapt, not just survive." She paused, letting her words sink in. "I won't lie to you. This will be the hardest 72 hours of your academy training. Some instructors would give you force fields, environmental suits, and construction drones. I'm giving you the chance to discover what your species are truly capable of when stripped of technological crutches. And if we fail..." Solari's voice was like water over stones, beautiful but uncertain. "Then you'll learn one of humanity's most important lessons," Maya said. "How to fail, get up, and try again. But I don't think you'll fail. I've read your files. Each of you has capabilities that, when combined, could create something remarkable. The question is whether you can see past your differences to find that potential." She deactivated the hologram and moved toward the door. "Take the next 2 hours to prepare however you see fit. When we meet at the shuttle bay, bring only what you can carry. And remember, on Arbos 9, the greatest dangers often come from refusing to adapt." As her students filed out, murmuring among themselves, Maya caught Vril lingering. The empath's mental touch was hesitant. "Captain, why do you believe we can do this?" Maya considered her answer carefully. "Because 20,000 years ago, my ancestors faced saber-toothed cats with nothing but sharp sticks and fire. They didn't just survive, they thrived. Every species that achieves spaceflight has that same spark somewhere inside. Sometimes it just needs the right challenge to ignite." Vril's bulbous head tilted, a gesture Maya had learned indicated deep thought. "And if that spark has been dampened by too much comfort, then Arbos 9 will remind you why it existed in the first place," Maya said. "See you at the shuttle bay. Vril." 2 hours later, Maya stood before the assembled cadets in the shuttle bay. Each had interpreted "bring only what you can carry" differently. The Raxians had loaded themselves with high-tech survival gear that would be useless once Arbos 9's bioelectric fields fried the circuits. Solari carried containers of water, practical but limiting. Only Vril had brought nothing but the clothes on their body, either from wisdom or paralysis. "Interesting choices," Maya observed, hefting her own pack, conspicuously low-tech, filled with simple tools and materials. "Let's see how they serve you." The shuttle ride to Arbos 9's surface was tense. Through the viewports, the cadets watched the forest grow larger, its bioluminescent glow becoming more apparent as they descended through the atmosphere. The trees, if they could be called that, were actually massive fungi, their caps spreading hundreds of meters wide, supported by trunks that pulsed with internal light. "Bioscan's going crazy," Tico muttered, staring at his handheld device. "There's so much life down there, it's overloading the sensors." First lesson, Maya said from her seat. Technology tells you what things are. Your senses tell you what they mean. Which do you think matters more when a predator is stalking you? The shuttle touched down in a clearing barely large enough for the craft. As the ramp lowered, Arbos 9's atmosphere flooded in, thick, humid, carrying scents that had no Earth equivalent. Maya watched her students react. The Raxian's nostrils flared in disgust. Solari's skin rippled with what might have been pleasure. Vril shuddered, all four arms wrapping tighter. Stay close, Maya instructed, leading them into the forest. And whatever you do, don't touch anything until I've shown you how to read it. The first 50 meters were deceptively calm. The fungal trees created a cathedral-like space, their bioluminescent patches providing ethereal light. The ground was spongy, covered in moss-like growth that glowed faintly where their feet pressed. Then Tira made the mistake of brushing against a hanging vine. The reaction was instantaneous. The vine flared with electric blue light, and suddenly the entire forest section came alive. Vines whipped through the air, leaves rustled with threatening sounds, and a chorus of unseen creatures added their voices to the cacophony. "Don't move," Maya commanded. But it was too late. Vril's empathic abilities, already overwhelmed by the forest's baseline psychic noise, exploded outward in a wave of pure terror. The psychic scream hit everyone simultaneously, triggering primal flight responses. The Raxians bolted in opposite directions, their desert instincts screaming that staying still meant death. Solari dissolved into near-liquid form, trying to seep into cracks in the ground. Even Maya felt the edge of Vril's terror, though her mental shields held. "Stop!" Maya's voice cut through the chaos with the authority of someone who had faced down charging elephants and lived. "You're making it worse. The forest responds to emotion. Vril is amplifying your fear and broadcasting it." But her students were beyond reason. Tico had climbed halfway up a fungal trunk, his claws leaving glowing wounds in the surface. Tira was slashing at vines that weren't even threatening her, creating more aggressive responses. Solari had partially reformed, but was shivering uncontrollably. Maya made a quick decision. Moving with practiced calm despite the chaos around her, she reached into her pack and withdrew a small container. The resin inside was from Earth, pine sap. Nothing special except that it was completely foreign to Arbos 9's ecosystem. She smeared it on her hands and began rubbing her palms together rapidly. The friction heated the resin, releasing its scent to human noses. It would smell like a mundane forest, but to Arbos 9's hypersensitive ecosystem, it was completely alien, neither threat nor prey, just different. The effect was immediate. The aggressive vines paused, confused. The bioluminescent flaring dimmed. Even the unseen creatures' voices shifted from threatening to curious. "Vril," Maya said calmly, projecting as much serenity as she could. "I need you to focus on my voice. The forest isn't attacking. It's questioning. We're new here. It doesn't know what we are. Your fear is telling it we're either predators or prey. We need to be neither." Vril's four eyes focused on her with difficulty. The empath was shaking, psychic waves still rippling outward but with less intensity. "Breathe with me," Maya continued, demonstrating slow, deliberate breaths. In through your primary vents, out through your secondary. That's it. Now, instead of blocking the forest's emotions, try to listen to them. What is it actually feeling? Vril's shaking gradually subsided. Their mental voice, when it came, was wondering. It's curious and protective. Those vines, they're not attack appendages, they're sensors. Exactly. Maya smiled. The forest is one giant organism, or close enough. Those vines are like fingers, trying to understand what we are. When Tira triggered them with sudden movement and you amplified fear, it interpreted us as a threat. She raised her voice to reach the others. Everyone, slowly make your way back to the group. No sudden movements. Tico, climb down backwards, the same way you went up. Tira, stop slashing. Celery, reform fully. Your partial liquid state probably reads as injury to the forest. It took 10 minutes for the group to reassemble, and another 5 for heart rates, or their alien equivalents, to return to normal. The forest had returned to its baseline state, though Maya noticed the vines near them swayed with what seemed like watchfulness. That, Maya said once everyone had gathered, is why we're here. Not to conquer this environment, but to understand it. Every world has its own language. Arbos 9 speaks in bioluminescence, bioelectricity, and psychic resonance. If you try to shout over it with technology or violence, you'll only create conflict. Tira's scales, which had flared with aggression, slowly flattened. On Rax, showing weakness invites attack. And that works on Rax, Maya acknowledged. But we're not on Rax. First rule of survival, adapt to where you are, not where you're from. She gestured to the forest around them, now seeming more wondrous than threatening. We have 70 hours to build a shelter that works with this ecosystem, not against it. But first, we need to find the right location. Vril, I want you in the lead. Me? The empath's surprise was evident, even without telepathy. You can sense the forest's moods better than any of us. Guide us to a place that feels welcoming, or at least neutral. The next hour was a revelation, with Vril leading, interpreting the forest's psychic emanations. They avoided 3 areas that looked perfect but felt wrong. One harbored a nest of something Vril couldn't identify but that radiated hunger. Another was some kind of fungal graveyard that reeked of psychic decay. Finally, Vril stopped at a grove where 7 massive fungal trees formed a natural circle. Their trunks were riddled with what looked like natural platforms. And the bioluminescence here had a different quality, warmer, somehow more inviting. Here, Vril said with unusual certainty. The forest. It's not exactly happy we're here, but it's accepting, like it recognizes we need shelter and won't begrudge us if we're respectful. Maya surveyed the area with professional approval. The natural platforms were about 6 meters up, high enough to avoid ground predators but low enough to build on safely. The circular formation would provide structure and protection from multiple angles. Perfect, she said. Now, let's talk about materials. Everything we use needs to come from the forest, but we can't just we need to work with the ecosystem's natural cycles. She led them to a nearby area where several smaller fungi had fallen, their caps already being decomposed by glowing moss. See how the forest recycles everything? We can use deadfall without triggering defensive responses. Tico, Terra, your claws are perfect for sectioning these caps into planks. The Raxians exchanged glances. On their world, manual labor was for the lowest castes. But something about Maya's matter-of-fact expectation made refusal seem childish. As they began cutting, Maya turned to Solari. Your species can secrete various substances, correct? I noticed in your file that you can produce a water-based film that helps you maintain cohesion in dry environments. Solari's chromatophores flushed with what might have been embarrassment. Yes, but it's considered primitive. We have technology now that won't work here, Maya interrupted gently. But that secretion, combined with the right materials, could make an excellent binding agent. Let's find some sap pods. The sap pods were Solari's discovery, though Maya had been guiding them toward the right type of vegetation. The cephalopod's tentacles were perfect for reaching into hollow trunk spaces where the pods grew, and their secretion, when mixed with the pod sap, created a substance stronger than any commercial adhesive. This is remarkable, Solari murmured, testing the mixture. The molecular bonds are actually enhanced by my secretion. How did you know? I didn't, Maya admitted. But I've learned that evolution rarely creates abilities without purpose. Your ancestors used that secretion for something before you had technology. We're just rediscovering what... By midday, or what passed for it on Arbos 9, they had established a workflow. The Raxians cut and shaped wood with their claws, displaying a precision that surprised even them. Solari processed sap pods and created binding compounds. Vril communicated with the forest, ensuring they weren't taking too much from any one area or triggering defensive responses. Maya supervised and taught, showing them earth techniques adapted for alien materials. The frame she designed was based on Japanese joinery. No nails needed, just precisely cut joints held together by Solari's adhesive. On Earth, she explained as they worked, my people learned to build in harmony with earthquakes, storms, and limited resources. Every challenge forced innovation. This forest is just another challenge. The first major test came when they tried to raise the initial platform. The fungal wood was lighter than earth wood, but also more flexible. Their first attempt collapsed spectacularly, sending Tico tumbling into a patch of luminescent moss that promptly tried to digest his scales. Alkaline secretion, Maya called out as Tico thrashed. The moss is acidic. Neutralize it. Terra didn't hesitate. Despite their usual rivalry, she immediately sprayed her brother with the alkaline defense mechanism their species used for territory marking. The moss released him, and Tico emerged with damaged pride but intact scales. Good instincts. Maya praised Terra. That's the second lesson. Your evolutionary advantages aren't primitive. They're tools waiting for the right application. The rebuild went better. Maya introduced cross-bracing concepts, showing them how diagonal supports could turn flexible material rigid. By the time Arbos 9's twin suns began their descent toward the horizon, they had a stable platform 6 meters up, anchored between 3 of the fungal trunks. We need walls and a roof by nightfall, Maya announced, checking the darkening sky. The bioluminescence was shifting, blues and greens giving way to reds and purples. The briefing mentioned nocturnal predators, but it didn't capture the full picture. Vril, what are you sensing? The empath had been increasingly agitated as darkness approached. Hunger. So much hunger. And intelligence. The night hunters aren't just animals. They're aware in a way that's hard to describe. All the more reason to be ready, Maya said. She'd been saving one particular technique for the right moment. Who knows what makes a good deterrent for intelligent predators? Superior firepower, Tico said immediately. Intimidation displays, Tira added. Camouflage, Solari suggested. All good strategies, Maya acknowledged. But there's one thing that universally marks intelligence: respect for another's territory. We're going to make it clear this is our space, but in a way the forest understands. She led them in collecting specific bioluminescent fungi, not cutting them, but carefully transplanting small specimens to pots made from dried pod husks. These they arranged around their platform in deliberate patterns. The pattern matters, Maya explained. Random placement says we don't understand the forest's language. Deliberate design says we do. We're writing a message in light. We belong here. The wall construction pushed everyone to their limits. Solari's adhesive was strong, but took time to set. The Raxians' desert adaptation made the humidity increasingly unbearable. Vril was fighting off waves of predatory intent from the darkening forest. Then the rain came. It started as a light drizzle that made the bioluminescence flare brighter. Within minutes, it had become a torrential downpour, but this wasn't ordinary rain. Where it touched exposed skin, it burned like acid. The wood, Tira shouted. It's dissolving the sections we haven't sealed. Maya was already moving. Natural rain on a fungal world. Of course it's acidic. The fungi evolved to resist it. Solari, can you modify your secretion to be more alkaline? I can try, Solari's form rippled with effort. Yes, but I can't produce enough to coat everything. You don't need to, Maya said. Focus on the joints and connection points. Everyone else. We need to create a water management system. The rain isn't our enemy if we can channel it. What followed was controlled chaos. Using curved pieces of fungal cap, they created gutters and channels, directing the acid rain away from critical structures. Vril, despite their terror of the increasing psychic pressure, used their forearms to hold components in place while others secured them. This is insane, Tico snarled as acid rain sizzled against his resistant scales. On any civilized world, we'd have force fields. And when those force fields fail, Maya shot back, never pausing in her work. What then? Technology is a tool, not a crutch. Right now, your claws are worth more than all the force fields in the galaxy. By the time the rain slowed, they had walls, ugly, patched together, but functional. The roof was partial, but it covered the essential areas. More importantly, the structure had survived its first real test. Look, Solari whispered. Beyond their circle of transplanted fungi, eyes had appeared. Dozens of them, glowing in the darkness. Some were at ground level, others perched in the canopy. A few seemed to hover in midair. Nobody panic, Maya said quietly. They're investigating, not attacking. We're something new. They need to categorize us. Threat, prey, or neutral. A shape detached from the darkness. In the mixed bioluminescent light, it was hard to make out details, but the creature was clearly built for predation. Multiple limbs, what might have been wings or extended fins, and a head that seemed to split open in ways that defied conventional anatomy. It approached their fungal barrier and paused. The transplanted specimens pulsed in their arranged pattern. The creature's own bioluminescence shifted, mimicking the pattern briefly before adding its own flourish. It's communicating. Vril's mental voice was awed. Testing us, Maya corrected. Seeing if we really understand the language or just got lucky. She made a quick decision. Moving slowly, she adjusted two of the fungal specimens, changing the pattern subtly. The creature's head tilted. It repeated its light sequence, and Maya adjusted the fungi again. After 3 exchanges, the creature made a sound, somewhere between a growl and music, and retreated, one by one. The other eyes disappeared. What just happened? Tira demanded. Negotiation, Maya said. We established that we're not prey, not competitors, but temporary residents who understand the basic rules. It's not a guarantee of safety, but it's a start. They spent the rest of the night in shifts, maintaining the fungal barrier and reinforcing weak points in their structure. By dawn, a gradual lightening of the bioluminescence rather than true sunrise. They had survived their first night on Arbos 9. I need sleep. Tico groaned, his usual aggression replaced by exhaustion. 4 hours, Maya granted. Then we improve what we built. Surviving one night was just the beginning. We need to create something that could last indefinitely if needed. Over the next day, the shelter evolved from crude necessity to something approaching elegance. Maya introduced concepts she'd learned from indigenous Earth cultures. How to create ventilation that wouldn't admit predators. How to use tension and compression instead of just stacking materials. Vril, growing more confident in interpreting the forest's moods, guided them to resources they wouldn't have found otherwise. A grove where the fungi shed their outer bark regularly, providing waterproof material. A stream whose water was only mildly acidic and could be neutralized with local minerals. The Raxians, their competitive nature channeled into construction, began taking pride in their claw work. What started as crude hacking became precise carving. They discovered they could create interlocking joints that were stronger than any single piece. Solari's role evolved from simple adhesive production to complex chemistry. They learned to modify their secretions based on need, waterproofing here, flexibility there, even a phosphorescent variant that provided gentle light without attracting predators. You realize what we're doing? Solari mused during a break. We're not just building a shelter. We're creating a hybrid architecture, something that no single species could have designed. Maya smiled. Now you're getting it. Survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about adaptation and cooperation, your species' unique abilities, combined with human techniques and local materials. That's what creates something truly resilient. The second night brought new challenges. A storm system moved in, bringing not just acid rain but winds that threatened to tear their structure apart. The team worked through it, adjusting supports, reinforcing connections, learning the shelter's weak points by testing them. In a real survival situation, Maya explained as they worked, you don't get to build once and rest. You're constantly maintaining, improving, adapting to new challenges. By the third day, their crude platform had become something remarkable. Multi-leveled, with separate spaces for different needs. A water collection and neutralization system. Food storage that used the forest's natural refrigeration properties. Even artistic touches. Tara had discovered she enjoyed carving patterns into the wood, while Vril arranged bioluminescent fungi in soothing patterns. It's beautiful, Vril said, their mental voice carrying emotions too complex for words. Functional beauty, Maya corrected. Every element serves a purpose, but that doesn't mean it can't also please the eye, or in your case, the psychic senses. Their final test came on the last night. The same predator from the first evening returned, but this time it brought others. A pack, or perhaps a family unit. They circled the shelter, testing its defenses not with violence but with intelligence. One creature prodded the walls with her appendage. Another tried to interfere with their fungal light barrier. A third attempted to climb the support posts. They're not attacking, Vril reported, fascination replacing fear. They're learning, seeing how we built this, understanding our methods. The highest compliment a builder can receive, Maya said. When other builders study your work, the creatures eventually retreated, but not before leaving something behind, a piece of curved shell or bone, deliberately placed within their fungal barrier. Vril touched it telepathically and gasped. It's a gift. Or trade. They're acknowledging our right to be here. As dawn broke on their final day, Maya gathered her students on the shelter's main platform. Below, the forest pulsed with its endless rhythms. Above, Arbos 9's twin suns painted the sky in colors that had no names in any of their languages. So, Maya said, what have we learned? That my claws are good for more than fighting, Tico offered, examining his worn but satisfied appendages. That primitive doesn't mean inferior, Tira added. That every ability has a purpose, if we're creative enough to find it. Solari contributed. Vril was quiet for a long moment. That survival isn't about conquering an environment. It's about finding your place within it. Maya nodded. All true. But there's one more lesson, maybe the most important one. She gestured to their shelter. Look at what you built. 4 different species, with nothing in common except a willingness to learn. You created something none of you could have made alone. She stood, stretching muscles sore from 3 days of constant work. The galaxy is full of species that see differences as weaknesses. But every difference is just an adaptation to different circumstances. Your desert world, Tico and Tira, taught you to be efficient and tough. Vril's twilight world created empathy and sensitivity. Solari's oceans demanded flexibility and chemistry. Earth's constant changes forced us to become generalists. The shuttle would arrive soon to take them back to the academy. But Maya could see in their faces, so alien, yet somehow now familiar, that they would carry these lessons forward. Will we ever use these skills again? Tira asked. Building with our own hands. I mean, when we have technology. Maybe not, Maya admitted. But you'll know you can. And sometimes, knowing you can survive with nothing but your own abilities and the help of others, that's worth more than all the technology in the galaxy. As they began breaking down non-essential parts of the shelter, leaving the main structure as a gift to the forest and future visitors, Vril touched Maya's mind one more time. Captain, I understand now why the Academy recruited you. It's not just about survival, is it? Maya smiled. No, Vril. It's about remembering what we are beneath all the civilization and technology. We're builders, all of us. Whether it's shelters or starships, we create things together that none of us could imagine alone. The shelter stood proud against the morning light as they departed, a testament to what could be achieved when different worlds learn to speak the same language, not of words, but of cooperation, respect, and the simple satisfaction of building something with your own hands. As the shuttle lifted off, Maya took one last look at their creation. 6 hours they'd managed it in. 6 hours to build not just a shelter, but understanding. Not bad for a bunch of aliens with nothing in common but the will to survive. The forest below pulsed its bioluminescent farewell, and Maya could swear she saw new lights appearing near their shelter. Other creatures, perhaps, coming to investigate this strange new addition to their world. The cycle would continue, as it always had, as it always would. Adaptation, cooperation, survival. The oldest lessons in the universe, taught fresh on an alien world, one treehouse at a time.